Welcome back to the All Ball Podcast, where it's all ball all the time. You are here with your hosts, Isaiah and Sean. This is episode number 5. Isaiah, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good, but I'm also feeling kind of ashamed because last week on my top 25, I didn't mention it during the recording, but I forgot that Jimmy Butler existed, and that's on me. That's on me. So with that being said, he's definitely in there. I'll probably slide him in right over DeRozan, and then that just pushes Ben Simmons out of the top 25. But it's funny that Ben Simmons is the one getting pushed out of the top 25 because that's our first topic today. Ben Simmons and Philly seem much more likely to be parting ways this season.
Yeah,
So I'm interested in getting into that.
yeah. Before we go ahead and move on to that, I'm glad you brought up Jimmy Butler being in your top 25 because one of my best friends, I was talking to him, and I was talking to him about my list, and he gave me a little bit of slack for putting Jimmy Butler so high. Like he was that's like a like flag, he was just like
Yeah, like he
pounding me
was
a little bit.
he was getting on you about it. And
Yeah,
I don't think that's fair. Jimmy Butler, despite how awful he was in the first round against the Bucks, he's still a very good player, and we can't just forget everything that he did last season. So
exactly. Yeah. So I just want to bring that up. But let's go ahead and move on to Ben Simmons. What's your thought about everything that's going on between him and the 76ers?
you know, I feel like I saw this coming, and personally, I wanted it to happen a long time ago. While I don't really necessarily like Ben Simmons that much, his cocky attitude and other things just don't really sit well with me. But besides that, as just a pure basketball fan, I wanted him out of Philly a long time ago because it was just clear that that fit with him and Embiid was not going to work. And it has
Hmm.
clearly gotten worse as the seasons have progressed.
Yeah. So it's come out that he's requested a trade to, I believe it was 4 out of the 5 California teams. Do you think that he has that leverage to request or demand that type of trade? Honestly, from my standpoint, I don't think that he has that leverage. I think that yes, he's an all-star, but I think he's a lower tier all-star. You defend and play
Mhm.
make about as much as you do. You can't really do much on the offensive side of the ball except play make.
Yeah, and there are two reasons why I feel like he doesn't have that leverage. Reason number one is, like you said, he's more of a lower tier player. He's clearly not player, but lower tier all star caliber player. So he's not some big superstar guy that's the head of the team, leader of the team, and all. Like, no, it's obviously Embiid for the Sixers, and Ben was just supposed to be another important building block, and it
Hmm.
just isn't panning out. So he doesn't have leverage because of that. Also, he doesn't have that kind of leverage because he doesn't have that kind of trade value. I don't think any of the California teams are looking to get him in the first place. So I don't know how he could just go out here and say, I want to be traded to a California team or just no team at all when there's supposed to be two teams involved. Both teams have to agree to the trade. The Lakers for sure are not agreeing to the trade for Ben Simmons. I don't even think they could afford him on the team anyway. The
I mean,
Clippers,
I don't know, man. They're signing everyone. So
but like I said, even if they wanted, I don't think they could afford it anyway.
yeah, I know because his contract's pretty big.
Yeah.
But
But then the Clippers is probably the most likely out of the teams because they do need playmaking. But even still, I don't see that working very well unless Ben Simmons can also up his offensive aggression a little bit because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what team you're playing on, who you're playing with. If you seem afraid to score or just like you don't want to score, you're not a threat on the court like you should be.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Then I was just
go
going to
ahead.
go through the rest of the California teams.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, the Kings, first of all, the Kings have a lot of internal problems they need to work on before they can worry about trading for somebody.
Hmm.
So, Kings are out. Then you have the Warriors, who I saw a lot of chatter about, but I don't see that one working very well either, as long as they have Draymond, because Draymond is not a shooter by any means. And you don't want to trade Draymond either. So you'd be running the offense with Ben Simmons and Draymond on the court at the same time. Yeah, that does not sound like a good idea in the slightest. And
Yeah,
then,
it's okay, good.
oh wait, no, that's the last team. That's the last team.
Yeah, so there's four California teams, and it's rumored that he wanted to go to three. Obviously, I think the Kings are the team that he probably didn't want to go to,
Hmm.
and the other three teams, obviously the two Los Angeles teams and the Golden State. I think of a player wanting to go to a California team, big market like Los Angeles, Golden State, even though obviously they're not as big as Los Angeles.
Hmm.
I'm thinking that he probably wants to get more into that city life. Obviously, Philadelphia is probably nowhere near as, you know, like happening as Los Angeles.
Yeah,
If I've been Simmons, yeah,
unless you're trying to see people riding up and down the street on dirt bikes.
yeah, unless you want to see Lil Uzi passing by. But um, if I'm Ben Simmons, my mindset should not be trying to get to a happening city. My mindset should be I need to be in the gym right now trying to get a shot, like trying to develop my jump shot. Um,
At this point, I'm kind of on the Giannis standpoint with him. I don't even care about him getting a jump shot anymore. He just needs to be willing to score. If he can attack the rim aggressively multiple times a game with no hesitation, then I don't even care about a jump shot. He just needs to be willing to score the ball.
I think if he can develop a jump shot, I think that'll help his confidence more to drive to the rim. I think if he can like think in his mind that okay, they can actually respect me out here, from range, I'll have a little bit more of a opening lane to drive to the rim, and I think that'll translate into more confidence and to more scoring for Ben Simmons.
But really, he just needs shooters all around him. Because if they're shooters, then they can't clog the paint because they have to respect the shooters. And that just leaves Ben's man to sag off. And if that's the only player sagging off, you just run right at him. Do a spin move, a euro, something. You're 6'10", 240. You can jump through that man if you want to.
Okay, so realistically, which team do you see him getting traded to?
I don't know what team I see him getting traded to, just because the Sixers are asking for too much in return when his
Mm,
value isn't that high. But in terms of teams that I think he could fit on well, I I do kind of like the Clippers fit, as I said, because they need the playmaking.
mm,
Yeah, but other than that, I could see him just getting like his own team, something like the Spurs, maybe.
yeah,
Or also, I do like the fit in Minnesota for him with
right.
his two obvious friends in D'Angelo Russell and Carl Anthony Towns.
Hmm.
Yeah, so between their off the court chemistry and the fact that that team needs defense, that's another really good fit for him.
Yeah, that's I was about to bring up Minnesota, but the
Hmm.
question I have is will they have to give up Anthony Edwards to get Ben Simmons?
Oh, yeah, and that's exactly why I just personally don't think that this is where he's going to go.
Hmm.
because that just they don't have the right assets to give up in return and
Hmm.
without, giving up the players that would attract Ben Simmons to the team.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so outside of their current quote big three, there's really nobody to trade. And so I Edwards would be the most valuable piece that I would even consider giving up in order to get Ben Simmons. But even then, that's a stretch.
Yeah. I mean, I think Beasley would also have to be thrown in there too, and obviously picks.
Hmm.
Um, I just don't see that the Timberwolves would want to give up Anthony Edwards, and obviously the 76ers, seeing how much they value Ben Simmons, they're not just going to bite on Beasley himself and then picks.
Hmm. And honestly, I don't see the Sixers wanting Anthony Edwards anyway because they already have Tyrese Maxey, who's kind of similar in mindset to Anthony Edwards in the sense that they're both young, pure scorers.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like this team should focus more on trying to win as soon as possible instead of trying to bring in another young scorer who they need to worry about developing, and it's not worth it. They need to get immediate impact players.
Yeah. So not looking back. I'm sorry. Like disregarding Ben Simmons being traded, if you were to just take Ben Simmons off that team, who do you think would be a good fit next to Embiid? Like,
Really, any aggressive scoring point guard would be a great fit there. Somebody like, obviously we've heard a lot of talks about Damian Lillard, even though
mm,
that's not a realistic trade. But talks of Damian Lillard there are very valid because that's a great fit next to Embiid. Really spaces the floor to give Embiid more paint area to operate in.
mhm.
Also, really, even though I'm not the highest on him, Donovan Mitchell could be a good, just aggressive scoring piece there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
just really any guard that likes to score the ball and can shoot respectively.
so here's the last thing that I want to say and ask about the Ben Simmons talk. All these trades that we keep coming up with seem unrealistic because it's a star that they're not wanting to give up, and then Daryl Morey's probably not going to want to give up Ben Simmons for anything else other than a star. So even though the Ben Simmons trade rumors are hot right now, does a Ben Simmons trade happen by the end of the trade deadline?
Absolutely not, unless the team is just absolutely dire, like they're in a dire need to get rid of him. Maybe he's pulling a Harden and he's playing worse just to hurry up and get out of there. Or maybe he's being stubborn, not showing up to practices or something. That's the only way I see him getting moved before the deadline.
Hmm.
Other than that, I don't think they'll do it just because they have his value way too high.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Simmons probably sits out and probably just gets moved for probably less than Daryl Morey's wanting to, being that he just probably wants to make Embiid happy and try to bring something in other than a player that's just not playing at all on a, you know, 28 plus $1 million contract. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
All right.
Um, all right, so moving on to our next topic. As you might have heard, all the free agent signings in the past couple days have either been Lakers or Nets. Um, I guess let's go ahead and talk about how you want to talk about how it's affecting the league. Um, that's kind of what I was thinking about getting into about it.
I would say that the way it's affecting the league, some people are overrating it and some people are underrating it. It's really hard to get a good middle ground on the impact that all of these signings are making. Because you have some people who are still in the mindset that these guys that are getting signed now are still in their all-star caliber prime, and they think, oh, they got another all-star. They got another all-star, when that's not the case at all. These
Right.
guys are old, so you have to take that into consideration. And then on that same note, there are people who are underrating it because the people are old. And they're just like, oh, the Lakers are a retirement home. Oh, the Nets got another old geriatric player. It's not that deep either. These players are still former all stars. They have skills. They just don't have the skills that they used to. So they are still important contributing pieces in their reduced roles. So I
Right.
don't think people should be just writing them off as, oh, they're old now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not getting, a prime Paul Millsap with he was with the Jazz or prime DeAndre Jordan when he was with the Clippers. But my thoughts about it are that a lot of the other teams besides the Nets and Lakers are getting underrated now. Like a
Hmm.
healthy Celtics team, I think can go far. Obviously Jason Tatum by himself took a game versus the Nets. I think you add JB back into the mix now that he's healthy.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not sure if they still beat the Nets because obviously the Nets
Yeah,
upgraded.
the Nets are the Nets.
Yeah, so I still think they could put up a better fight. And obviously, I want no one in the league to get hurt. But barring injuries, I think that the Celtics, you know, could make a good run against the Nets.
Yeah, even outside of the Nets, because assuming the Celtics team can stay healthy, they won't be encountering the Nets in the first round like they did this year anyway, and they wouldn't be in the play-in either. So, yeah, if this Celtics team can stay healthy, they can make another solid playoff run. Maybe if they
Mhm.
get lucky, hit another Eastern Conference Finals, but they'd have to get very lucky to do that, because another team that's getting underrated is the current champion Milwaukee Bucks.
Mhm.
People seem to forget who Giannis is. They forget that when they're contributing, at least, Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are very threatening players on the court. And, the role players outside of those three are all still very solid role players on that team. The only major piece I think that they lost is PJ Tucker.
Mhm.
But outside of that, I mean, this team is still the current champions. They have our opinion best player in the league on their team. So you can't just write that off.
Yeah, I think another team that's getting underrated is the team that went up against the Bucks in the finals, is the Suns. I know a lot of people are saying that it was a fluke because all the teams they played against were injured, but the team that you know they went up against in the finals, the Bucks, were for the most part healthy, and they took the first two games against them. Obviously,
Hmm.
they dropped the next four and lost the series, but I mean, I think that the Suns are getting overrated. I think only Devin Booker can only go up from here. Same thing with Aiton. Chris Paul maybe takes a hit because he's getting up there in age. Um, I think Mikal Bridges still growing.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I think the Suns are getting underrated.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think the Suns are getting underrated as well. But I don't agree with the Chris Paul maybe taking a hit thing, because after all, he's only 1 year, well, will be 1 year older by the time we hit playoffs next year. So it's not that much of a difference in age to where I think he's just going to take a sudden hit unless he gets hit with a bad injury. Otherwise, I think he's still just going to be the same guy that he was for them this past season. But you are
Hmm.
right about Booker, Ayton, Bridges, even Cameron Payne now, all just going up from here. They're still pretty young guys. Booker being the oldest of that group, I believe, either him or Payne, but still a young core there that has plenty of room to develop and get better.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot of teams out in the Western Conference that are getting underrated. A lot of people are already assuming that the finals are going to be Lakers versus Nets. But like as we saw last year, a lot of people thought the Lakers were going to repeat, but you know, Anthony Davis got hurt, and I
Mm.
mean, LeBron, quote unquote, got hurt, but almost basically just gave up on his team. That's what they always say when he just doesn't feel like playing no more. He's hurt, but
Yeah,
Kawhi,
it was pretty
Kawhi
obvious
and
in that
Jamal Murray.
in that series that LeBron just gave up. He wasn't really hurt. He's was tired.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him because the rest of that team was, pretty buns. But
0 points.
yeah, you know, not not taking that 20 million a year, kind of, I don't know, shot yourself in the foot
Yeah,
a lot.
but you were saying about the Clippers.
Oh yeah, Kawhi, wasn't there for half of the time they were in the playoffs. Jamal Murray, obviously, I don't know how much of an impact he'll make, but I still think that he's an all-star, all, close to all-star player that can make an impact, especially help out Jokic, and I think Jokic would be more effective. I just think that there's a lot of players that were missing last year that made these teams not look as good as they actually are.
And I'm actually glad that you brought up Jamal Murray because I was going to also note that the Nuggets are another team being underrated because a lot of people look at how their playoff run ended this year, but they completely forget the fact that the guy who just completely stole the show for them last playoffs wasn't there.
Hmm.
So, how does this team change and how does their success in the playoffs change when he's back?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on top of Jamal Murray, I think they were missing PJ Dozier. I think they were also missing Will Barton. I think, uh, I, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think maybe Michael Porter Jr. missed one game or so. I know a
I
lot of their role
I
players were
don't.
in and out.
Yeah, I don't think Porter missed anything, but I know that Barton was out and then he came back in the middle of the playoff run.
Okay, well, I know. Yeah, that's why I was taking it. I think it was Barton. I'm pretty sure PJ Dozier also missed the whole series also.
Yeah, I
But
don't remember him being out there for them, so yeah, he was probably out too.
yeah. Um. So anything else you want to talk about this Nets versus Lakers, debate that's been going on?
The last thing I just want to talk about is the Warriors are in a awkward spot as well, where a lot of people are like, "Oh, don't sleep on the Warriors, don't sleep on the Warriors," and then there are also a lot of people who are like, "But look at who they have: Clay coming from injury, Draymond, oh, triple single, and
Hmm.
a bunch of young guys." So I feel like they're a team that should be watched this next season, but at the same time, your hopes shouldn't get too high for them either.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Warriors can make, you know, some movement happen out there in the West. I think they can steal, a couple, maybe probably jump up to like a seventh spot in the West. But I mean, you still look at it, the West is still kind of deep, not compared, obviously not compared to the East, but I think the West still has some teams out there that can compete for a championship or at least make a deep playoff run. But not sure on the Warriors. Not 100% sold on the Warriors.
Yeah, it's funny hearing that though. The East is deeper than the West now. That
Yeah, it's
for so
really
many
crazy.
years, so many years, we heard, "Oh, weak East, weak East.
Yeah,
The West is too deep. The West is strong." And now, look at the East. The East has overtaken the West.
yeah. It was who in the West is gonna play LeBron in the finals? I was like, from like 2015 to what, like 2019,
Yeah, or
basically the whole
really,
time he was with the Cavs.
really, even before he was on the Cavs, even when he was on the Heat. So that's like
Oh yeah,
2011 to 2017 or 18 to 18. Yeah.
yeah. Now it's, you know, I mean, I guess you could still say who. Most people are saying like who's coming out of the East to play LeBron in the finals, but I I don't know, man. He's getting up there, and he's not really that LeBron anymore. But you want to go ahead and move on to our hot takes of the day?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started with yours. Go ahead and give yours first.
Okay, my hot take is that I feel like even if he didn't come back from injury and keep balling out the way he was before he got injured, I believe that LaMelo should have still won Rookie of the Year.
You know what? I don't think that's controversial. I know that um, you know, I, I know that Anthony Edwards also had a good season, but I think LaMelo to come back off of injury and still put up, the good numbers that he was putting up,
But
kind
that's
of,
what I'm saying. Even if he didn't come back, I think he
yeah,
should have still won Rookie of the Year.
yeah. I think the fact that he did come back off injury and still continue to play good is what should have put him over the top. Like the for sure, 100%, you deserve this award. That's
Hmm.
why. I think there's a case for Anthony Edwards if LaMelo doesn't come back, but I think that
Okay,
since
you
that he
think
did come
because
back,
he came back,
yeah,
there's
because he
no
came back.
case.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no case.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people were upset, even with LaMelo coming back, that Anthony Edwards didn't win. So I feel like it's a hot take just because when LaMelo won, I did see a lot of backlash about that choice for the award, when really I don't think it was warranted at all. Edwards, he had a very slow start to the season, slower
Hmm.
than LaMelo's start, which wasn't all that hot either, but that was because he's coming off the bench. But yeah, Edwards, even like later throughout the season when he did get better, he still had a lot of inefficient scoring nights. And when that's the only thing you're getting from the guy, I don't think you should tolerate the inefficiency that much, even if he is a rookie. So I just feel like LaMelo easily should have been the pick, whether he came back or not.
Yeah, and I think another thing to look at is the success that they brought to the team. Um, Even having Cat and D'Lo, they didn't make the playoffs or the play-in. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the Hornets at least got into the play-in. Obviously, they got torn apart in the play-in by the Pacers. But I think if you take LaMelo off that team, they're not even probably top what, like top 10. They're probably
Oh
falling
no,
into the top
absolutely.
fifth, later 15 seeds.
Yeah, no, because when you look at it, before LaMelo got injured, they were on route to just be in the playoffs, not even in the play-in. Like they were a playoff team before LaMelo got injured. Now, granted, the Timberwolves, they did have a lot of injury problems with Cat and D'Lo,
Hmm.
so I can kind of give them a slight break on that. But at the end of the day, they really didn't ever look like they were going to be a playoff team, like not even a little bit. And no matter what Edwards, D'Lo, Cat did, like none of them really ever made that team look like they were going to be a threat to make the play-in or the playoffs. Whereas
Hmm.
a healthy LaMelo was leading the Hornets to a 4 seed, I believe, at one point.
Hmm. And the Timberwolves are always a team that I've expected when healthy. Like you said, the injuries affected them this year,
Hmm.
but when healthy should be a playoff team. The Hornets this year, I did not expect them to make the playoffs. I expected them to be 11, 10 seed. Because if you look at who's the second best, in your opinion, who's the second best player on the Hornets?
I feel like LaMelo is the second best, and
Hmm.
but I don't think it's that far off. I think the best is Terry Rozier.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then really even Gordon Hayward, when he stays healthy, is probably up there even for second best and pushing LaMelo to third. But yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like that group of guys is clearly the top three, and that top three is nowhere near the caliber of the Timberwolves combined top three.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think that the Timberwolves continue to not live up to expectations, even with injuries. I still think that they can make themselves, compete for a playing spot. But
Hmm.
I mean, I guess we'll see this year what they do. Hopefully that everyone stays injury free and COVID free also. Um,
Hmm.
but you want to go ahead and move on to my hot take now?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right. If the Warriors at the trade deadline are fighting for a top, let's say top five seed, I think that they either flip Kuminga or Moody at the deadline to get another All-Star player. And I'm saying this because if Kuminga's still a project, he's still very raw, like talent wise.
Hmm.
If Kuminga's and you look at their lineup, I don't even know if Kuminga's going to get playing time.
Hmm.
If Kuminga's not getting playing time and he's not showing progress and training, at practice and the garbage time minutes that he's probably going to get, I think they might flip him to get another All Star.
Yeah, that's a hot take. I don't know about that because there's just so many things. One, I don't think he gets flipped for an all star unless it's an all star on a useless team that's not doing anything.
Hmm.
And then also it would have to be an all star forward on a useless team that's not doing
Hmm.
anything, which just narrows the window even more. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody in the East on a team like that, unless I don't know, maybe the Pacers just look atrocious and they decide to blow it up and get rid of Sabonis, maybe.
Hmm. And obviously you'd have to attach a contract onto
Oh yeah,
Kuminga, so
yeah.
maybe you're attaching Wiggins. So maybe you throw in Wiggins and Kuminga and you get Sabonis. Do you think that's a fair package equally?
Even then, I don't even think I don't think that's a fair package
No.
because I, there's guys like Giannis who they come in as a project and then they dominate. But at the same time, you also have the Bruno Caboclos out there who most of the people listening to this podcast probably have never heard of because he came in as a project and did absolutely nothing.
Oh my God, I can't believe they compared that guy to Giannis. They said he was gonna be the next Giannis. Oh my God, I hated when he came into games. I suffered watching the games when he would
Oh
play.
man. Yeah, no, that I really don't know why they even took a chance on him. So with that being said, I don't think Kuminga's gonna be a Caboclo, but I don't think
Wait,
he's gonna be a Giannis either.
man, hold on, wait. Let me roast this guy a little bit more. Hold on. Hold on. Seeing that man trying to dribble the ball, or like, run a point for it, man, it was like watching a little kid dribble the ball. That man was so uncoordinated. Oh my God.
Oh man.
I don't know. It looked like a bunch of like he was a middle schooler trying to like do like spin moves or something in the post. It was awful. But okay, go ahead.
Oh,
I had to roast him a little more, man. He made me watch awful basketball, and I didn't like that.
okay, okay. I get it. I get it. But yeah, like I was saying, yeah, I think Kuminga is neither a Giannis nor a Caboclo,
Hmm.
but I feel like he's closer to Giannis than he is to Caboclo in terms of his potential.
Hmm.
So it really just depends on how much the Pacers believe in his potential, for one, and second, if they how highly they value Wiggins despite his contract as well.
Yeah. Okay. So there's also, like I said, Moody. But now that I'm
Hmm.
thinking about it, what about Wiseman too? Because Wiseman, I think Kevon Looney's gonna start.
Oh
I,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I think that Steph likes Looney better than he does Wiseman. So
Yeah,
you know,
because Looney, really, I feel like the Warriors, they should let go of Wiseman in the first place, just because Wiseman clearly has the potential to really develop into a star big man in the league,
mhm,
but he can't do that if he's playing alongside Draymond, who's gonna run most of the offense, Clay and Steph, who are gonna take most of the shots, and then even Wiggins, who's gonna also take a hefty portion of shots as well. So it's
mhm.
really going to stunt his development and leave him becoming a role player at best, setting screens, running to the rim.
Okay. So do
Yeah,
you
I don't
think
know.
like the same package, Wiggins, but instead of Kuminga, it's Wiseman. So do you think that's, for a guy like Sabonis, do you think that's a fair package?
Really, I feel like Kuminga and Wiseman, both of them, like you're completely banking on potential there
Hmm.
when you have a certified all star in Sabonis. So it really depends on how bad the Pacers would be. Like the Pacers would have to be terrible and really just ready to give up and just blow it up. So they'll take any sort of young guy. In which
Hmm.
case, then yeah, I think they would accept either a Wiseman or a Kuminga package. But other than that, I don't think they accept either package.
Yeah, like, it's just because I'm saying like I don't think Kuminga is probably gonna get any playing time. Like you look at their roster, they have. Here's my starting five if I'm the Warriors. Curry, you know, granted that Clay Thomas comes back.
Hmm.
Um, so it's Curry, Clay. You're probably running Wiggins at the three,
Hmm.
Draymond at the four, and then
And then Looney at the
Looney at
five.
the five. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then off the bench, you have like Otto Porter. I think JTA also showed last year that he probably deserves some playing time.
Hmm.
Uh, who else? They got pretty deep this year in free agency. They brought back
Yeah,
Iguodala,
Jordan Poole
Jordan
also
Poole,
had nice
uh,
flashes last season.
uh, who else? Damian Lee. I don't know if Damian Lee gets any playing time, but uh, I can't ever pronounce this man's name. Bielin, it's
Oh, oh,
BJ
Bielitsa.
Bielitsa,
Yeah,
yes. He might get some playing time in there.
yeah,
Um,
I could see him playing back up 4 minutes probably.
yeah. So now where does Kaminga fit into any of this? Or even Moody? Moody might get some playing time too over Kaminga.
You see, yeah, and that's where the questions really lie because I could see Moody getting some minutes maybe because like his clear projection is supposed to be a 3 and D guy. So
Hmm.
you really just want to get him used to spotting up in that corner and playing defense.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that he could find his way into that rotation if he can just keep that up. Whereas
Right.
Kuminga, because he's not really polished, you'd have to dedicate a ton of minutes to his development.
Hmm.
And if the Warriors are trying to win like everybody is expecting, since they want to take advantage of these last prime years for Steph, I don't think you want to waste those minutes giving them to Kuminga unless you're winning a blowout or you're getting blown out.
Right. Like I said, the garbage minutes, garbage time.
Exactly. And that garbage minutes don't help development very much because you're playing against other lower caliber players. So
Hmm. Maybe Kaminga goes back to the G League, but I highly doubt it. That's where he spent all the last year. I don't think he's probably going to want to go back there again.
Well, I mean, regardless of if he wants to, they probably would, and he couldn't do anything about it. So.
I mean, yeah, that's true, but it's is his want to be there is going to stunt his development. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's fair, but again, at the same time, I'm sure that he's aware that he's not a very polished player.
Hmm.
So really, he should just more so look at it as an opportunity to further refine his skills so that he can be ready to make the main lineup next season.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about this topic or my hot take?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, that's going to go ahead and be the end of the podcast. If you like the podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. Drop your comments. Isaiah, do you have anything else to say?
Don't forget to share in those comments that you're dropping. Leave any sort of positive or negative criticism. We take all of it. And just comment about your favorite parts as well.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and see you in the next one.